Hello, and welcome to Monster Island Radio, a show where we discuss one of our favourite movie franchises, Godzilla. Each episode, we pick a movie from the series and talk about the highlights, lowlights, and everything in between, and why Godzilla is one of our favourite monsters. Hello, I'm Ben.
I'm Graham.
And welcome to episode 1, so to speak, of Monster Island Radio podcast. We've done an episode 0, a sort of pilot for the series. And this is going to be our first official episode.
Very exciting.
Oh, yes. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to work our way through the movies, but we're going to do it by era, starting with the Millennium Era, and then work backwards.
Right.
So Millennium Era for me is probably one I've seen least of. I know we've both seen All Out Attack.
Yeah.
Which I think is the only movie from this series we've both seen.
Right. Well, the whole thing with this whole project is that we've both seen some of these Godzilla movies, but it's been so long that they deserve a revisit overall. So I can't even remember which ones I've seen sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's worth kind of just like putting them all out in a big row. We'll watch all the Millennium ones and get all that down. Committed to memory. Yes.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Godzilla films are typically categorized based on the era of emperor rule in Japan, with the exception of the Millennium Era, because there isn't an emperor called Millennium that I know of. And it's also important to note, actually, that with the Millennium Era, none of the films have any continuity with each other, and only with that of the 1954 original. So each film is a direct sequel to 1954. Essentially.
So if you watch Millennium Era in order, they're not sequels to one another?
No.
They all take after that first movie?
Exactly, yeah. So, to kick off the big millennium, we've got Godzilla 2000.
Which was actually made?
In 1999.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was released in December 99 in Japan, as a response to the infamous 1998 Roland Emmerich Godzilla, which is generally universally hated. I mean, I liked it as a kid.
This is the thing, yeah. If you watched it when you were a kid, like we were both 10 when that came out.
Yeah.
Target audience, basically. And
Pretty
I don't
much.
know if I would like Godzilla as much as I do now if it wasn't for that movie.
It's weird, isn't it?
But
yeah.
We'll probably talk about that film another time.
Yeah, well, that'll be a bonus episode. So for anyone who's not seen it or has forgotten Godzilla 2000, let's just do a little plot rundown here. So we have two opposing factions that focus on Godzilla. A small organization known as GPN, the Godzilla Prediction Network, who operate independently to track Godzilla like a storm to determine where and when he's going to surface next. Then you got CCI, which is the Crisis Control Intelligence Agency, who are at the same time studying this rock under the sea that turns out to be a 60 million year old UFO that gets reactivated by sunlight.
They're sort of like the government, i.e. the bad guys.
Basically, yeah. So GPN needs CCI's help to scan Godzilla's DNA, and they find a property in it called regenerated G1, which regenerates his cells at an accelerated rate, which the UFO is also interested in, coincidentally.
It's a big coincidence.
Oh, yes. So he can achieve a new life form on Earth. Attempts to stop the UFO fail. Godzilla has to come and stop it himself, and then the UFO creates a new organism based on Godzilla's DNA, a new kaiju called Orga, a deformed alien clone of Godzilla. Shocking.
Oh my God.
Now, I think this being a direct response to the 98 US Godzilla, it's quite telling in the plot, because you've got this alien coming in.
Pretending to be Godzilla, basically.
Exactly. That is exactly it. And then Godzilla has to defend itself against the copycat, really. And for me, I think
Deep stuff.
Yeah, I think it came out as quite a strong movie, even though it's kind of maybe a knee-jerk reaction to the US one. I'm glad they did it, because I think it was a strong effort.
Well,
Do you think I'm reading too much into the whole?
I don't.
No. You agree?
I absolutely agree. I think the movie's very 90s. Obviously, nostalgically looking back, it's very of its era. But in that sense, I think the Japanese, Toho were like, if you want to do modern Godzilla, this is actually how it's done. And that's literally the movie in every sense. So they're just taking everything that didn't work with the American version and saying, no thanks to that, actually this. And yeah, the overall result is a lot more satisfying because it's more genuinely done. I mean, there's a lot of, even though it's a Japanese movie in a response to an American movie, I still feel there were American influences though. Because this opening scene, when you first start the movie, and you've got this group who are, what are they called again? GPN. They're very much like a kind of storm chasing kind of faction,
that's it.
like you were saying. And it's almost like watching Twister in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was a big hit in Japan, but like maybe.
Maybe it was.
Certainly a big hit everywhere else. But Twister was big in the 90s. And then they have this scene where Godzilla's basically like having a showdown with them in their car, and that's very Jurassic Park.
I thought that as well. Yeah. When she takes pictures of his face accidentally
on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole scene feels really, really deliberately kind of Jurassic Parky, and I like that though.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the most original thing ever, but I still think if you're going to take off a scene like the T-Rex escape scene is not a bad one to go for. So
that's true. I actually really liked all the characters in this, which is this is the thing. I can see your face. So Graham's not. I don't know. You're not that into the human element, typically, if it's not done well.
They were better than usual. I'll say that much.
Yeah,
but they're still the same tropey kind of like guys. I mean, it's supposed to be campy, and it is.
It is a bit, yeah.
So,
but I liked it.
Yeah,
I really did. So you got the head of the GPN, Shinoda, his daughter Io,
right,
who is like basically his parent. It's just a strange dynamic between them. Like, yeah, he calls her his business partner.
Right.
Gives you an idea of what they're like.
So quirky.
Yeah. That reporter, Yuki, who was trying to get pictures of Godzilla. And then the other character, the head of the CCI, Katagiri.
I think my problem is really only with Yuki.
Oh, really?
Because she's kind of like played off as being a bit of an idiot.
Yeah, a little bit silly.
And that arc never really concludes. Like, there's a bit where she kind of has a slightly heroic moment.
Which bit?
It's the part where they have to go back to the building that's about to be destroyed.
Oh, of course.
Which is a whole sequence we'll get into in a moment. But yeah, she does that. So it's sort of like, okay, she kind of proves herself that way, I suppose, and shows like, I'm not a fool, I can do things. But I just think like if you're going to kind of, I don't know, have a female character and be like, she's a moron.
I don't think she came off as a moron.
No, she doesn't, but everybody treats her like one.
Yeah, when they're carrying her away, she's like, it's the scoop of the century.
Yeah. I just don't think the idea was fully realised, and I found it just a bit irritating. But hey, it's just not a big deal.
Well, I liked them enough that I wanted to see more of them, and I think they could have gone into another movie, like a Godzilla 2001 or something.
Yeah.
Because more development for them, I think, would have been good, because, yeah, you say it wasn't fully realised for that character. I think.
Well, this is one of the persistent problems in all of Godzilla.
Yeah.
Is that you get to know a set of human characters, and rarely, if ever, do they return.
And then if they ever do.
And then it's like, oh well, we know Godzilla inside and out. We know his behaviours, his personalities, his likes and dislikes, blah blah blah. But you're always spending time every movie getting to know a whole new bunch of humans, and that's what drags it down. So they need to be really, really strong. So on the one hand, I don't care about them, but I also judge them more harshly than I would other characters.
Yeah.
But they're fine.
Yeah. Considering there wasn't even a fight until the end.
Yeah, I guess so.
I was like following it. Yeah, absolutely, the whole way through. And I think that's speaks volumes to the strength of the characters in this. Compared to other Godzilla movies.
The first big action sequence where Godzilla first makes landfall and starts
when
attacking.
He comes out of the water.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really, really well done, and it shows the strength of those effects and how they can still work in that era.
As in guy in a rubber suit,
exactly,
composited.
Yeah, the composition and the force perspective and all that stuff. It works really, really well, and I like that they weren't. I mean, obviously, this is however many movies into the Godzilla franchise. They know people are fully aware of the character, so they're not afraid to go all in with an action sequence straight off.
Yeah.
But it's so satisfying to come into that after having seen not only the 98 movie, but also when we just watched King of the Monsters last time. I wasn't fully satisfied by that. So it's nice to get some big action up front that's unrestricted, and it felt really good, really well done. Great effects.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the visual effects, One thing that I did notice, I think so often anything that happens action-wise tends to be at night. I think things look like more of a spectacle at night in like dark atmosphere with flashes and things like that. But that first appearance is just in daylight.
Well,
to have the whole thing in daylight, I think was really nice to see, especially when you see those Full Metal missiles, like tearing into his skin.
The missile attack is day, but the first bit where they're in the tunnel and all that.
Oh,
is
that's
night.
the bit you. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm with you.
That was the scene I meant. But yeah, I mean, go on and tell us about the missile attack.
Yeah, so like it was so visceral. You could see these kind of like chunks of skin flying off him. Things like that. They looked really great.
You did, and I was actually really surprised that these missiles damaged Godzilla.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Well, it's not that we don't see it so much, but I was just like...
You see things exploding on him, but then you don't see the damage that's happening.
It was the first attack, and normally in the Godzilla movie, like, the first attack goes bad, and like Godzilla's rampage continues, but that isn't the story of this movie at all anyway.
No.
But just like setting that tone, like actually, Godzilla gets pretty messed up in this like first kind of, arsenal attack, and it's really kind of interesting.
I suppose it was to set up the plot, because they're blowing up bits of skin off him, and that's when Shinoda wants to analyze his skin. And that's when they find out that regenerated G1 in his body, and that's kind of the whole setup. So it's definitely a story idea, not just for the spectacle of it.
Yeah, it was a good change. It worked on a lot of different levels, and just a little thing to change the normal Godzilla structure makes a big difference.
Going back to the human element of this,
right?
Something I wasn't quite sure about. Yuki and Shinoda, did they have a little bit of romance going on or not? I couldn't tell if it was just like a nice friendship or if it's a romance thing. Well, I didn't mind because I thought it was quite cute the way, when she said bye to him, like waving through the window and stuff like that. I was like, this is nice.
Well, I think this is another thing that doesn't really come to fruition, but it might be lost in translation. Obviously, Yuki and the daughter have like sort of this abrasive relationship, which I think is there to strongly imply that Yuki and what's the guy's name? Shinoda. They are together effectively. They're dating, and that's why the kid doesn't like her. But we never get like a public display of affection because in Japan, like that's not so much a thing.
That's true.
So I think it's just supposed to be like implied, like they're a couple, but we're not going to like rub your face in it because that's not the way Japanese people do things.
I actually did take the liberty of watching the Japanese one, so I wanted to see what the differences were, and between. The kind of dynamic between Shinoda and Yuki was pretty much the same.
Right.
There's a couple, I think the biggest change was for Io, the daughter.
Okay.
She's much sassier in the US one.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which I think worked better, and I think that character needs to have that level of sass to have a dad like that. So.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a, dare I say it, a Simpsons influence. It might not be deliberately, but if you think about the way...
In what way?
Well, the way the Simpsons kids are towards their parents in that show is, and now, a very 90s thing. I think that permeates that kind of sense of attitude for like youngsters, and especially very young kids to act as adults. It's a very 90s thing.
Yeah.
Think about all the Macaulay Culkin movies. They're basically all riding on that shtick.
Yeah.
So I think it's just of the era.
Yeah.
I've seen online that, past and present, a lot of Western fans have criticised the Western dub, but it's a completely official, authorised by Toho dub.
Yeah.
And Toho have responded on several occasions about this specific one and said that it's campy because the movie is campy.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a disconnect sometimes that that Westerners expect a certain thing from Godzilla and don't always get it, and we're certainly guilty of that sometimes. But as far as this movie and this dub goes, Toho, the Japanese studio who made it, was satisfied that the English language version is authentic.
Yeah.
And it's all done by English-speaking Asian and Japanese actors, so all the voices kind of feel very appropriate and the performances are very kind of on point. So yeah, I don't have any qualms watching the dub over the subtitled one. I think anybody should feel that one is superior over the other. Just watch the one that you like.
Yeah, I mean, I preferred the dub.
Right.
Much more entertaining, and I think the whole edit was a bit tighter. It was a bit shorter.
It's got about 8 minutes out, I think.
Yeah, it's about that. Not that much has changed. The dialogue, obviously, which we'll get into. But the soundtrack as well.
Okay, like the music and stuff.
Yeah, so with the dub, I think I preferred the music for that one as well, because you got some new compositions from J. Peter Robinson, and it's mixed in with some of Akira Ifukube's scores from Ghidorah, three-headed monster,
Okay.
and Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Right.
So there's some of those in there as well.
Mm.
So they've kind of brought all kinds of things in to give it a new sound, which was much more exciting because in the Japanese one, I felt the music was just background. Like, it was serviceable,
Yeah.
but I think it gave it a little bit more, kind of zhuzhed it up a bit more, which was nice. There was that bit where Yuki was looking for the GPN guys,
Okay.
and there was that kind of slapstick moment with those labourers outside trying to give her directions, and every time he kept turning,
Oh,
he kept hitting him on the head. They didn't have music in the Japanese version for that bit, but they had this kind of campy, bouncy, kind of slapstick music there. And I was like, I'd convinced myself, I was like, oh, that must be the music in the Japanese one. They didn't have it at all, and it was much better. It was much more dry. I think that appeals to my maybe British sense of
Prefer it
humour.
without music.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much funnier. So, but I mean, that's the only point where I can give the music praise and the original, to be honest.
Also, that wasn't funny at all, though. So,
Oh, I got a chuckle out of it.
this is the kind of thing that I would just remove.
I know you would.
But that's just like, obviously, like I was just saying, it's about expectations. So, but yeah, with the characters,
Yeah.
there's sort of this kind of what I would refer to as like a male. Well, maybe this is the wrong way to put it, but there's, for lack of a better term, there's a love triangle going on between these three guys.
Yeah, I mean, because they all knew each other before.
It's not a romantic love triangle, but they've got history,
Yeah.
and they've all split up. And one guy's
Well, they haven't all split up.
well, one's kind of caught in the middle, isn't he? Like
Yeah, but he has allegiance to Katagiri.
Katagiri, yeah. So Katagiri's kind of like the baddie. He's all like strong, and he's like in charge.
Yes.
Whereas the other two are much more kind of, I don't know, wet, for lack of a better one.
I think they have emotion.
I guess so.
That's
yeah.
the thing.
Well,
Katagiri
those
is
wet guys.
yes, wet, sopping. Yeah, they actually have something about them, whereas Katagiri is just, I'm here to be a bad guy.
Right.
And he does it well. I think he's just wholly unlikable.
Their performance is good,
yeah.
and like the dub was good for it. But I just, again, this is something where I would care more about this if it was developed over a couple of movies,
Yeah,
rather than saying, "Oh, these guys have got history," and I'm just like, "Okay,
yeah,
they've got history, I guess."
yeah,
So I didn't so much care about it, but it was interesting how they tried to like leverage tension out of that guy Shinoda, when Shinoda's kind of stuck in that building.
yes,
And they're like, oh my god, the building's gonna get blown up.
Yeah.
We have to get inside there and save him. Honestly, the whole middle of this movie was so boring.
Oh no,
I just felt the whole middle just dragged.
no, really?
Yeah, like from the point where the UFO lands on top of that building
Yeah,
and stays there
because
until
it's collecting data.
It's collecting like energy and data and stuff, and like, oh my god, like I've written in my notes, bring some snacks for the middle of this film because you're gonna need them. Yeah, I just didn't care about any of that, and it's not that I wasn't waiting for a fight. I didn't even realise that there hadn't been a fight until you mentioned it a while ago. There's only one fight scene in this whole movie. The movie works really well because, it doesn't feel like you're left wanting for action at any point, except for this middle part where the story and the action sort of just stay still for a long period of time. We know the ship's collecting data. We know the humans are trying to stop it. And other than the building being blown up, which eventually does happen, you're just sort of waiting. It's just kind of like, this is happening, and it continues to happen for several minutes in the scenes. It seems to go on for ages.
They tried to tighten that up in the US edit, so I couldn't imagine you watching the Japanese one. Because there's that, the bit where he's jumping down the elevator shaft and the explosion's sort of chasing him.
Okay.
The way they cut that,
Is it longer?
No, they kind of show him like jumping down about five floors,
Right.
and this explosion's going down about 20. They tried to make it look like it's chasing him in the US one, but in the Japanese one, the explosion happens and then he jumps down the
great.
shaft. Yeah, so you would have just been snoring.
Yeah, I just found the whole, like we were just saying, the first bit of the movie with these two Godzilla scenes is great. The human characters are set up really, really well, even though I think the arcs kind of are cut short. We like them, more or less. But that middle, rubbish.
I mean, I would agree that it's the slower part of the movie,
Yeah.
but not so much that I thought it's feeling like a drag, because I was just curious about what was going to happen.
I was curious as well. But the thing is that something is going to happen eventually.
Yeah,
And we're just
I
like,
suppose
okay.
it's the nature of a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, but any movie really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the UFO's collecting data. okay, we're just going to wait for it to finish downloading then, I guess. And it was like, this is another, like, of the era. Am I on dial-up internet waiting for, like, Auger to get his, his MP3s off Napster or something? So it just seemed to go on and on and on.
I wonder if it was, like, a commentary on digital age then.
I can't see that it would have been.
Looking back, like, it seems laughable, but at the time, like, because there's a scene that's cut in the US one where just before Shinoda escapes the building, he looks around and sees on the monitors the word Millennium popping up on all the screens. Yeah, it's cut from the US one. So, and I imagine because by the time it came out in the US, it was already the year 2000 at that point. So
people are over Y2K.
That's the thing. Like, I was like, that must have been a Y2K panic thing. So, like, for anyone who doesn't, yeah. So for anyone who doesn't remember the Y2K panic,
or anybody who wasn't born,
there was this
Millennium Bug.
Millennium Bug, yeah, that's what it was termed. The Millennium Bug was going to be this issue with computer system storage, essentially. So the way computer systems read calendar dates, they always read the last two digits of the year.
Right.
So 1998 would be 98, 1999 would be 99, etc. So when it gets to the year 2000, it reads the last two. Yeah, it goes back to zero, resets to 1900, and they were like, this is going to cause big problems. So I remember it being sort of, I don't know if it was like hysteria or if it's actually a problem. I haven't really looked into it.
I have no idea how this happened.
I remember we had like when I was a kid, we had this computer engineer come out to our house and like patch our computer to stop it happening. And at the time, it seemed like a sensible thing to do. Like, if this is going to be a problem, let's do something about it.
I hope you were putting tape over your webcam from that day forward. Okay, Ben, why don't you just tell me what you think of Auger, as we're on the topic of the UFO anyway.
Now, because I hadn't seen this movie until we watched it for this, I mean, I already knew who he was based on the GameCube game we used to play, where you could play as Auger. And I didn't know what he was.
No.
So... Because
I used to think that Auger was like he is a super secret character in the game.
Yeah.
I was always under the impression when I was younger, I always thought Auger was exclusive to the game, was my presumption.
Oh, right.
Because it's a thing in fighting games to have like a secret character, the Akuma, as it were.
Yeah. I thought the design was quite cool. Sort of gross, but that's the idea. I mean, it's just kind of copying Godzilla to become an organism that can survive in this atmosphere.
I wonder if when they were designing Auger, did they think, what would Godzilla like if he was created from scratch today, and go with that? Perhaps, but I don't know. It's just an idea.
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Just a thought.
Yeah, maybe.
The shoulder cannon is a bit cartoony, but
I liked it because it matched the UFO.
The only thing I don't like about Auger in the movie is that his hands, his like claw hands, are just a bit too big. And they kind of give away the kind of costume aspect of the kaijus. I think if they
I think it's just meant to look more alien.
That's whatever the reason is fine. I just thought like if those hands were a bit smaller, it would look a little bit less clumsy. And that's really what you're trying to hide. If you're going to make one of these kaiju fight scenes, the clumsiness you've got to conceal that. Yeah,
you don't want bits wobbling when it touches the building.
So giving him these massive hands, it's kind of like I would just shrink those down. But other than that, I really like Auger.
The name was quite relevant to the plot.
Yeah,
because in the Japanese one,
thing, isn't it?
It's called Organizer G1. That's the name of the property in Godzilla's DNA.
Right.
It helps him regenerate.
So they discovered this from the skin that got blown off at the start.
Yeah, exactly. And the UFO wants it for itself, so the life form can exist on Earth. So it's dubbed Organizer G1. I mean, this is why Auger got his name, because he was using the Organizer G1. So that's the whole kind of point. But I mean, his name isn't even mentioned in the movie. It's only in the credits.
Auger is a really good name for a kaiju.
It's cool.
Organizer G1 is a bad name for anything.
Yeah, it just sounds like you're really good at filing things away.
But yeah, one of the best bits of the movie is when, consumed of heavenly purpose, Godzilla climbs into the face vagina and allows himself to be consumed by Auger.
That was the best. That was the best bit. Easily.
It was, but it's so you see it coming a mile away.
You see, when he opens his mouth, you're like, Godzilla's going to climb in there.
Yeah,
I didn't. I thought he was going to go near and just blast it. I didn't think he was going to climb in and then blast.
The whole fight scene is like Auger and Godzilla are battling. It's not going well for Auger, so we can presume that Auger's like, I need a bit more DNA from this guy. So he opens up this big kind of face-like orifice, which has a very kind of unpleasant, suggestive appearance, and Yeah, then there's just a shot in the American version of Godzilla just sort of looking at it for a second, then just walking up to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he's going in. Like, he's going in there, and then just blows him up from the inside out, and it's just like amazing. But it's sad that it's just a little bit too signposted for my liking. But there's a humour to it, so like, because the payoff is good either way. It was just really funny.
So the point when you knew it was going to happen was when you saw his mouth open?
The mouth opens, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then when it cuts to Godzilla, there's a beat. And then Godzilla in the same shot starts to sort of walk forward. I'm just like, well, he's walking.
And then you're like, oh, here we go.
He's going in there.
Yeah.
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 Well, I really liked it, even though it was really silly.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. A lot of the silliness was like sort of toned down for this. Like, oh, well, I say that.
How do you mean?
Because like some of the other movies, especially the older ones, I think were aimed at kids.
Well, they go through like...
Maybe this is probably aimed at the kids who are now adults.
It's like a hills and valleys kind of thing with Godzilla, isn't it? Like sometimes it's for adults and then it goes through another phase where now it's for families.
Yeah.
This one was just bang on the kind of anybody can watch this. You can watch it as an adult. If you're lonely in the middle of the night like I was and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to put 2000 on, you can.
Yeah.
But if you want to watch a Godzilla movie with your kids, you can also happily watch this. So I think this has got a really good tone in that respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd say it's just silly enough.
Yeah.
It's not as silly as some of the other ones.
No.
This isn't Jet Jaguar programming himself to become large somehow.
Yes.
Which we'll get to one day. But yeah, I mean, the whole slapsticks thing, like you were saying at the start, with these 2 guys hitting themselves in the head with a pole. Nah, it's there for some people.
I think that's as silly as it gets. I like Godzilla's design in this.
Yeah.
Apparently they wanted to make him more reptilian looking. I think he looked more like a cat. He reminded me of my cat. And I thought that was so cute. And the way his tail would like flick about. I was like, oh yeah, you're sweet. But they actually coloured him green for this one. It's the first time Godzilla's actually been green.
Do you think of him as green?
Only because of things like Reptar and Rugrats and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Reptar.
You know, and like all the like in the '98 Godzilla, all the logos and stuff were all green.
Green, yeah.
So it's a lot of green.
I guess so.
So yeah, they actually made him green for this one. They gave him like his little ears from the original movie and stuff like that, and like these giant dorsal plates, which I think were really cool. I think they just wanted to get a more recognisable silhouette after the '98 one. So when you first see him come into the city, and it's got that like orangey backdrop from the light pollution and stuff behind him, you can tell immediately from that silhouette that it's Godzilla, and it's like kind of a return to form.
Right, fair enough.
Which is just nice.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't notice it so much, but I knew they had redesigned it, and it's definitely it's a good one. It feels like a more iconic kind of look. It's the good version of when they update something for like a modern era, shall we say. Sometimes things do get changed and they kind of lose their core of what makes it good in the first place sometimes. But yeah, in terms of Godzilla, whenever he goes through like a new kind of origin, it always suits like the movie, and it's always kind of on topic, on message.
Yeah.
So yeah, it matched the tone of the movie. He didn't look too scary, but he didn't look too cartoony.
Yeah.
Just right.
Yeah. You know what? The design for Auga,
right,
when we play the game,
right,
as teenagers.
This game's called Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, if anybody's wondering.
Yes.
I couldn't think of it earlier, but yeah. It's on GameCube and PS2, if anybody wants to pick it up online, because it's definitely worth a try.
Great game. When Cloverfield came out,
right,
I always thought the kaiju I was like, oh, it looks like Auga.
It does look like Auga.
And I find it funny that it's the US kind of copying again.
I don't know if it's intentional.
I don't know if it's intentional, but they're very similar. I haven't really seen what the Cloverfield monster looks like in full, because I've not really looked into it that much, but in the movie you only see kind of glimpses of it, and it looked close enough to being Auga to me.
I think Auga himself, or herself, whatever,
itself
looks good. We've said we like Auga, but it is indicative of a kind of stagnant period of monster design from that year onwards. I'm not saying Auga's influenced all movies since, but when you see monsters, especially in these J.J. Abrams movies, when they have monsters in like Cloverfield and the Star Trek movie and Super 8, they always have this same kind of like
generic,
biomass of like gnarled like muscles and like claws, and they never really look like anything.
It's never that visually iconic, I suppose.
No.
Like when you got the xenomorphs, like you know straight away what a xenomorph is from Alien. Things like that, instantly recognizable. But yeah, like you say, just this massive monster.
We don't
like,
get...
could be in any movie interchangeably.
Yeah, we don't really get good Western monster designs these
I think
days.
It's maybe just to look more realistic.
It doesn't though. Because once you've seen it and then you see another movie, it's like, oh, there's that monster design again. Even in Star Wars Force Awakens, there's some monsters in that at one point, and they just look like standard J.J. Abrams monsters. It's just like, even in Star Wars, they haven't got a decent monster design. It's just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put it on Augur. I don't think Augur had really any impact in the West other than in that video game that we keep mentioning. So yeah, it's just a coincidence, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be talking about Cloverfield on here one day.
Maybe.
It's a kaiju movie. Thereabouts. We'll have to run out of Godzilla stuff first, though.
Yes. So, Graham wanted us to pick, like, because we watched this movie separately, and you wanted me to know what my favourite lines from this American dub were.
I want you to give me your 3 favourites.
My 3 favourites.
And I've written down some as well.
They'll probably be the same.
Well, that's the thing, we might have some doubles, so I've written down more than 3.
Okay, I just picked 3.
You give me your first favourite line from the dub.
So, when they're describing that missile going through anything, they say it'll go like crap through a goose.
It'll go through Godzilla like crap through a goose.
Yes.
Which apparently is a line that's been spoken in another Godzilla movie.
You're joking.
I think so, unless I'm misunderstanding my trivia.
Which one?
I don't know. I don't want to rest on this too much. But I think this is a, shall we say, classic Godzilla line, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. But,
okay.
I think they were deliberately referencing something there, because there's another reference. There's a scene where they're doing like a scientific discussion about Godzilla and the UFO.
Yeah,
and
in that tent.
Who's that middle scientist? What's he called?
You know what? I don't remember his name.
Well, the kind of weakling middle scientist who can't decide who his best friend is.
The Rodan of the group.
He tucks his tie into his jacket. Do you remember that? His tie's on the outside of his jacket.
Yes, I do remember. And then he puts it back in, yeah.
This is a direct reference to the first movie, the 1956 one, where a scientist is giving a talk about Godzilla and he tucks his tie from the outside.
I didn't spot that. I mean, I remember him doing it, and I remember thinking they're making a point of this.
Yeah,
but I didn't realise that was
just to reference this little bit of body language. I don't know. They're just like... So I think there's a lot of little references in this movie to other Godzillas, because it's like 2000 and Godzilla's back in a big way, like in Japan at this point. So I think the crap through a goose line is one that may have featured previously.
Interesting.
Here's a line for you that
okay, go on.
You might not have picked.
Yeah.
There's a bit where this is before the UFO lands on top of the big internet building and takes all the data.
Yes.
It flies over part of Tokyo.
Yes.
And a guy just looks out of his window and he says, "What alien space vessel?"
I didn't... What? He says that?
It's just some guy, just some extra says that. And it just really made me laugh. That, like, he's heard on the radio or on the TV that there's a space vessel, and he's just, like, really indignant about it. Like, what alien space vessel? I've not seen it. But then he does look out his window and just say it. And it's just like, yeah, you don't really get moments like that in most movies.
No, you don't. Okay, my next one.
Go on, then.
Great Caesar's Ghost.
That's a line that's been in other Godzilla movies as
well. Has
it?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, right.
Here's one for you. This is when Katagiri wants to blow up the building where the tubby one, what's he called? I keep forgetting his name.
Shinoda?
Yeah, he's in there. You can't blow up that building, that's where Shinoda is. And he says, "Looks like I'm going to have to send more flowers."
Yeah, that is so action movie, that line. I'm trying to remember what it was in the Japanese one.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think he says anything.
Oh,
no, does he?
Well, he says something because they've dubbed it.
Nothing that funny.
Well, it certainly made me laugh.
And then the other line was when Yuki was being dragged away, saying, "It's the scoop of the century." It gave me a laugh.
That's just the kind of thing you say.
Exactly, that's why I thought it was funny.
Well, here's my last one then.
Go on then.
Or have I said 2 already? No, this is my last one.
You said 2, yeah.
So at the very end of the movie, this is maybe better than the whole like Godzilla climbing inside Augur.
Right.
Shinoda's trying to justify Godzilla's behaviour somehow.
I think I know where you're going with this.
He's like, "Why does Godzilla protect us?" His daughter asks him like, "Why does Godzilla protect us?" And he's like, "Oh, Godzilla is inside each one of us." And then it just cuts to Godzilla just doing like a 360, blowing up massive parts of Tokyo, and it's like, I don't know if he's so affectionate to humans or not really. It's just a really weird juxtaposition.
I knew that would be it.
The movie just ends.
I knew that would be it because that's only the American one.
Oh, right.
They don't say about him protecting us.
It doesn't make any sense.
Not at all, because I think with the Japanese one, the whole point of Godzilla in this one, not so much that he's a protector, just that, again, like I've said before, like kind of like symbol of guilt and man's evil, essentially.
Yeah.
So he's this beast doing his beastly thing, and that's it, and you all have to fucking deal with it.
That's probably a better way of putting
and
it.
That's how it
we
kind
have
of
to deal
ends.
with our problems.
Yes.
We can't ignore this.
But then, I think
we should stop taunting taunting
yeah.
Godzilla.
So I wonder if the US one, they wanted to kind of, make up for some of the guilt of ruining Godzilla's name with the 98 movie. So they're kind of calling back to that whole idea of Godzilla being a protector. And that's why they said it.
I'm shaking my head, Ben.
I know, I can see you shaking your head.
This is what it is. And I know I've defended the Western dub before. I still think it's fine. But I think that in terms of American movies, they don't like you leaving the cinema with a bad feeling. And if you end the film by saying, basically, Godzilla represents our problems that we can't get rid of, so we better just deal with them.
Yeah.
That's basically like saying you've got problems in life and they're not going away. Whereas in the American version, they're just like, Godzilla's inside each one of us.
Yeah. Well, they do say that, actually, it's like being inside everyone.
Okay, fair enough.
But the whole part about protecting was added.
Maybe we're just splitting hairs then.
But I think you're right, though. It's to give a more positive message at the end of it.
I think that might be. Then if there's something to it, that might be it.
I think you're on something there.
Either way, they talk about Godzilla like he's some sort of hero figure, which I guess he kind of is.
But then he's just
like blowing
destroying
up. People are dying over there. Speaking of people dying,
yes,
Katagiri's death.
Great, loved it. Like, actually, about him, I thought it was great. I think it was a good representation of the fragile male ego.
Oh,
like, he would rather die than admit he's wrong about something.
Yeah, you're right.
And it was really something.
But I would have rather they do it in a way where he's more stubborn, because he
punched Shinoda away from him.
But he's knowledgeable that he's about to die. Rather than standing up to Godzilla in pure blind arrogance.
Oh, right,
he knows he's basically committing suicide at this point. And it just was, there could be like a little poignant scene in there about the male condition, but actually it just turns out to be a really silly and hilarious death.
It was very
funny.
Which
everybody else somehow survives. Godzilla just broke that specific part of that building.
And they just happened to avoid it.
Yeah, but Godzilla's their friend, isn't he? He's inside every one of us. So he didn't want to blow up that building.
I liked that. That was some level of character development for him. That, he knew he was a dick and he knew he was wrong. And he's like, I'll just accept this.
Yeah.
So
that was one arc that did get finished.
Yeah.
I mean, Shinoda was proven right. Good.
The ragtag team.
Yeah, Yuki sort of had a heroic moment where she went back to the building to help Shinoda, putting his daughter in danger. I guess she could.
Yeah, that's what got me. It's like, brought her into the building. Like, what are you doing?
Her heroic moment could have been to save his daughter, but instead she does a heroic moment where she goes to save Shinoda and takes the daughter, so it's a bit muddled. I already said I didn't like this. The movie ends and it's fine, is basically what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So, your overall impression?
Overall, as the kind of start of a new kind of era of Godzilla, I think it's really, really strong. It hasn't aged well in every way. Some of the effects do look dated, and some of the character tropes are perhaps not what you would see now. But it's a really enjoyable movie, and I think especially if you were trying to get a friend into the series, like, this is a good in point to say, it's got enough action, and then, it's not too kind of silly, but it's silly enough that you'll get the message of what Godzilla is like on the whole.
Yeah.
It's a good entry point. It's a really good first Godzilla movie if you want to kind of like watch it with some friends who aren't familiar with the series.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
So, like, often I'll try and look at these movies as if a newcomer was coming to it. Is this a good jumping in point? And I agree, this is a good one. Like, it's a very focused effort. I'm glad they didn't try to just remake 1998 to be like, no, this is how you do it. They actually did a new movie.
Yeah, it's its own film. And I think the point you made earlier about, is Auga a response to the American Godzilla? And I think almost certainly, yes.
Yeah.
That's a definite subtext to that fight scene.
Yeah. So, for a bit of fun, we've got a quiz coming up.
Oh my god, I'm not prepared for this.
I know, so get ready.
Okay.
I've got 4 questions for you.
I'm going to find out how true a fan I am.
So, the first one, what was the budget for this movie? Was it 8 million, 18 million, or 80 million?
I think it was 18.
No, 8 million.
8? I knew there was an 8 in there.
Yeah.
There were no your answers.
And I think that showed in some of the effects.
Yes. It's hard to go back to this one, but I would like to think that it maybe looked a little bit nicer back in the 90s. You might have been a bit kinder to it.
I think it would have done, yeah. I agree. Now, I had to look this up because I was like, where were they in this movie? I didn't know where they were. So I thought, okay, where was he when he first appeared? Which prefecture was he in? Was it Tokyo, Osaka, or Hokkaido?
I think in the end of the movie they're in Tokyo, and they're in Shinjuku specifically, because they mention it in the dialogue, and you and I have been there, so that was quite a nice little excitement for me. But in terms of the beginning of the movie,
yeah,
it's either Tokyo, or what was the other one you said, the last one?
Hokkaido.
Okay, let's go Hokkaido.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's got that kind of look to it. I've only seen photographs, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't have known without there's multiple choices though. So it was a guess.
Okay, third question.
Okay.
What was the US tagline for this movie? Was it "Get ready to crumble, make way for a new regeneration," or "Putting the god back in Godzilla"?
It's going to be one of these first two. I bet it's "Get ready to crumble."
You're right.
Yeah.
I was really proud of my tagline, "Make way for a new regeneration."
It's too specific.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I was proud of that.
Rarely do you walk out of the cinema after a movie and look at the tagline and think, "Oh, now it makes sense."
No, it's like the
Regenerated.
it's like in Frasier with the title cards that come in. You're like, what does this abstract sentence mean?
Okay.
As you watch it becomes apparent.
I'm sure Frasier fans appreciate your reference then.
I hope so. And final question. Right, there was a planned sequel.
Okay.
A US-made planned sequel for this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, going to be called Godzilla Reborn.
I felt you missed out. Didn't see this.
Yeah. The kaiju that he was going to fight in that, was it a volcanic bat, a forest-dwelling spider, or an electrified giant eel?
For some reason, I feel like I really know this. It was a volcanic bat, right?
It was a volcanic bat.
I must have read something about this.
Oh, maybe.
Because it rings a bell.
It was going to be called Miba.
Maybe.
And apparently it looks like a Muto without legs.
I guess you could say it's a bit too similar to Rodan in a way, though.
Yeah, volcanic bat. I mean, he's a volcanic bird.
Yeah, like I want to
a
see
winged
it, but
volcanic
yeah,
thing.
we kind of have
Yeah.
it. Did I get all of those questions right?
You got 3 out of 4.
Oh, that's not bad.
So very good, very good.
I was worried that there were going to be 2,000 questions.
Okay, so let's do the old. Let's plug the socials.
Okay.
Where can they find you, Graham?
If you liked this discussion, I have a YouTube channel called Fossil Arcade where I discuss and review retro video games. So if you want to look at video games of a certain era, retro ones that is, go to Fossil Arcade on YouTube and check it out.
And I hope there'll be a Godzilla GameCube game review at some point.
You never know.
Ooh. As for me, you can follow my Twitter, which is at BenMRHall. You can see some of my artwork there, listen to some of my music, if you like bleeps and bloops.
If you like the remix at the beginning, then you should check it out.
Yes.
It's good.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you for that. And if you want to follow this podcast on Twitter, go to Monster Island RP. That was the only handle I could get. I was too late to the game for this.
Don't admit that.
I know. And on Instagram, Monster Island Radio. Make sure to tune in next time.
Bye.
Bye.